to the Mintner method. I'm your host, Andrew Mintner, and on today's episode, we're going to look at the Friday night matchup between Syracuse and UNLV. Now, this isn't a matchup that I was going to cover originally on my list, but I was looking at a couple of different things over the last couple weeks where it comes to teams that blitz versus non-blitz, like their percentages, and where there's a wide range of discrepancies with offenses who are either really good in non-blitz situations and then very bad in blitzed situations. One thing that came to mind last week, which I wish I would have done a video on and shared more on the topic. I was talking to one of my buddies, and I saw that Western Kentucky was first overall on blitz percentage at 58%. And Boston College was very good against non-blitz situations and very bad against blitz situations. And so I was like, man, maybe that's a spot to where, we can get some value. And then all of a sudden, Castellanos was out, the line dropped, and they still covered. So it's just something to think about going forward. And something we're going to dive into today, along with the other metrics that we've been using recently. So, as most of you are familiar, the UNLV starting quarterback bounced and left, and people were like up in arms because of the NIL stuff. But I'm here to kind of say that that's probably not really that big a deal, and it was kind of shown last week that it wasn't either. So when we look at overall on the early downs things, we have a couple of things that really stand out. So Syracuse really likes to throw the ball on early downs, 56.3%. And then, UNLV, it's more of a strength-on-strength matchup. They're very good against early down passing, giving them an overall ranking of 22nd overall. And, Syracuse is no slouch, 45th in early down EPA is solid. It is not elite, though. That needs to be said. So the thing that stands out right here, though, is when we come down to UNLV on the offensive side of the ball, they really want to rush the ball on first and second down. They rush the ball 74% of the time on first and second down. They're decent at it. Obviously, we kind of wish they would throw it a little bit more because they're infinitely better. It's infinitely more valuable. But in this matchup, that could be a plus that they're going to run it more. Just horrendous against early down rushing is Syracuse, and that balloons their ranking for early down overall EPA to 96th. What's a little eye-opening, though, is that even though Syracuse is really bad on early downs rush EPA, they're not really bad for the advanced statistics side of it. And so when we look at it here, they're pretty average across the board. Defensive line yards, 65th, havoc, 39th, stuff rate, 42nd, rushing efficiency, 53rd, rushing explosiveness, 53rd also. And so, they're not, they're not abysmal, which you would think that on early downs, because they're so bad, they would just be bad overall in general. And that's just not the case. So, but as we look at a couple other things here, UNLV has a Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type defense. Very good efficiency, and then just really bad at giving up explosive plays. So it's we're going to do really well on these 6 or 7 plays, and then you're going to get a big one, And that's kind of not a terrible thing overall, simply because, 3 solid plays in a row, you're off the field as a defense, so you kind of have to keep that in mind, right? When we look at the underlying metrics, defensive line yards, defensive havoc, very good. Syracuse below average, with when I talked about them in the transfer portal when they were able to get Kyle McCord, I just felt like it was a lateral move. He was not going to improve them in any way. He didn't make them a contender, which, I don't know who would you put on Syracuse right now that would make them a contender. I mean, probably nobody, to be perfectly real. But when we look, they are pretty bad rushing the ball on offense. No explosiveness. No, very bad, inefficient. Running it. The thing is, there will probably be some biggie pass plays because that is a weakness for UNLV here. But from the efficiency standpoint, they are really good. 10th in predicted pass per attempt, predicted points per pass attempt, excuse me. And then, there's kind of like a hit or miss on the UNLV. It's going to be, their offense is going to have to come through against the defense to kind of make up for that. And I think that they will. And one thing I want to show you here is this is a defensive blitz and non-blitz EPA. So the non-blitz EPA ranking is right here, and then the blitz EPA ranking is right here. And then this over here is the blitz percentage. So for example, Air Force blitzes at the 7th highest rate, 43.1% of the time, and they rank 97th in EPA when they blitz, just to kind of give you an understanding. And these are based off passing plays. So this isn't like taking in run blitzes and things like this. This is looking at strictly from a passing standpoint. Now, one thing that you'll see on here as we scroll down to UNLV is, or not UNLV, Syracuse, excuse me, is they're 125th in blitz rank. So they're only blitzing 14.8% of the time. Now, that is where, in the past we would have been like, okay, well, their quarterback is really good against non-blitz attempts. Well, the quarterback now, Haj Malik Williams, who started last week and who will more than likely start again after eviscerating Fresno State, last week alone, he had 13 attempts where he was not blitzed, where they did not blitz him. A total EPA of 8.37, which comes out to being roughly 0.69, which would put him top 5 overall in EPA, which, obviously this is a very small sample size, but this is something crucial to understand. And when we look at the statistics overall, just like your counting statistics, you have to understand that the offense looks slightly different with him out there, okay? So he had let's look at his game log real quick. Last week he only attempted 16 passes, right? This is not a shock. UNLV wants to run the ball. That's what their offense is built around. But to average 11.4 yards per attempt is very, very good. And nobody is saying that he is going to replicate that week in and week out. But this is a good spot to understand that the offense might not take as big of a dip as people think. And I'll give you an example why. If we go back to Sluka, in his amazing games, he's not really doing anything here. 18 attempts, 17 attempts, 13 attempts. There's just nothing there that's really standing out. Now, yes, he's rushed the ball really well. He had the really good game against Kansas, and, he's had some other spots there. But that's not really what we're diving into, right? We think that overall, this Williams gives them a bigger upside, right? Now, also, on top of that, Williams also rushed the ball last week for 119 yards. And he's had some run. I mean, the Utah Tech game, we're not going to take that with any consideration, but it's like a copy and paste type insert for me. So I think when you're looking at that, UNLV comes in at 6.5 point favorites. And I think the thing that really stands out is these early down numbers, even though UNLV is not in the top 15, which is something we are definitely, working that trend, and we are going to continue working that until it stops producing overall unit wins. we have a big advantage here on early downs. And UNLV, they're not getting ready. It seems as if they're going to do the same thing as they did with Sluka at quarterback, and they're going to try to run the ball heavily and use play action and have large chunk plays in optimal situations. Now, that's one thing that I think, you have a big upgrade here. And being that they're going to be playing this game at home, I think they have that advantage where 6.5 seems like a lot. And if you were looking at the beginning of the year or, just in general in the past, you would say, how is UNLV a 6.5 point favorite over like Syracuse, a team that's, in the ACC, a team that, would assume to have better recruits or better coaches, but like that's just not the landscape for football anymore. It's just not that. And, for what it's worth, Syracuse has played fine. They played fine. The loss to Stanford, very concerning, considering Stanford is, only projected to win 2.5, 3 games this year. Obviously, they're improved with a lot of return production, but that's pretty alarming to me. And now they have their first true road game. It will be, the beginning of a very tough stretch. 5 of 6 games on the road. Doesn't look like they have one bye week after North Carolina State, but I don't see that really, really being good for them. And I think, as we go on throughout the season, these are the little angles that we kind of need to like jump into and see if they're worthwhile. If they're not going to blitz on passing plays and they're going to let this kid just sit back there and pick apart, that's going to be a problem. But even from that, even disregarding that angle, they cannot stop early down success. Early down success is correlating to an incredible against the spread record, and this is a clear advantage. So that's going to be it for today's video, today's episode. It's very quick. I'm going to get this video out as quickly as possible because it doesn't have a lot of runtime because the game is tonight. But again, if you enjoy the content, please feel free to like, subscribe, comment, share with your friends, family, anybody who might be interested. I just finished yesterday. I also do UFC episodes and whatnot. It's almost an hour long. It's a densely packed in episode, but I mean, there's a lot of good information in there, and all these statistics that I use, I create the spreadsheets myself. I derive the data from websites, and I put a decent amount of time into it. And I really appreciate the support, even though this is a very small channel as it is right now in its infancy. But yeah, so thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.